A Democrat lawmaker is breaking ranks with her party over the U.S. and Israeli strikes on Iran, saying that her own party needs to wake up and get over the dislike of President Trump here. Understand this here, guys. I've been saying this for a while now. If you want to actually get more people to your side and to your cause and to believe that you actually have the best interests of the United States of America, then you're going to have to get over the dislike of Trump and start focusing on the actual needs and demands of the American public.
I think that it is imperative the Democratic Party wake up and get past their dislike of Donald Trump, the President Trump, and their feelings of international conflicts going on. This is about national security. This is about what is possible in the Middle East. This is about being a good neighbor, good partner to the Gulf states and what their aspirations are. This is about supporting the people of Venezuela. This is about dismembering our relationship with, or not dismembering, but resetting our relationship with China. Right now, 55% of the oil production that Iran produces goes to China despite sanctions. You want to support the people of Ukraine. You want to end that war. You have to. There is no getting around dismembering this Islamic Republic. It is non-negotiable. It is not a want to have. It is a have to have. And it's not just for the Iranian people. I think you have to trust the Iranian people. We know this government better than anyone else. When you dismember and decapitate this regime, you are going to see a change in the Middle East, in Venezuela, in China, in Ukraine. And I think, quite frankly, their ideology has it's caused a lot of problems for us worldwide. We need to take it seriously. And I think at this point, we have a tremendous opportunity. This will be like ending the Soviet Union, the Berlin Wall. This is a transformational moment for humankind, for security, and as an American, this is in our interest to complete it. So I am a Democrat. I have been a huge Democrat. I am incredibly disappointed with my party. I do not see myself in them in this moment.
I think that it's probably hard to see yourself in a group of people who care more about whatever ideology they're specifically trying to push more so than the actual country. You can say that there are some, talking points that absolutely would benefit like specific classes in the United States of America. But guys, when you keep pushing things that are anti-America, you cannot be surprised that people that are absolutely patriotic Americans, let's say, have no interest in hearing your talking points any longer going forward.
Meanwhile, a joint statement has been released by the US and Middle Eastern countries affected by Iran's drone and missile attacks. It says the US, Bahrain, Jordan, Kuwait, Qatar, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and the UAE strongly condemn the Islamic Republic of Iran's indiscriminate and reckless missile and drone attacks against sovereign territories across the region. These unjustified strikes targeted sovereign territory, endangered civilian populations and damaged infrastructure. The Republic's actions represent a dangerous escalation that violates the sovereignty of multiple states and threatens regional stability. The targeting of civilians and of countries not engaged in hostilities is reckless and destabilising. We stand united in defence of our citizens, sovereignty and territory, and reaffirm our right to self-defence.
That is absolutely a brilliant statement here. Listen, I do wish that they would actually step up just a little bit more and kind of help out a little bit more than they're doing. Understand this here. This is not a passive scenario. A good amount of the countries that surround Iran have been basically pointing out over the last multiple decades that they are having, in fact, problems with Iran, but obviously based off of Iran's military, they really were never going to make any solid push. But now we're there. You guys should definitely be stepping up just a little bit and defending your region of the earth a little bit more. Okay, because they're not going to stop. Notice how this just happens, and then all of a sudden, all of your sovereign nations are basically being bombarded with their literal nonsense.
Let's go live now to CNN's international diplomatic editor, Nick Robinson in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Nick, thanks so much for your time. First of all, I think what has been most stunning to the Western world is the number of missiles that struck in the heart of tourist areas like Dubai. We now have some of these Gulf states pushing back. They're intercepting these missiles at sea. Have you noticed that this flurry of activity has now calmed down over the last couple of hours?
I think it's really too soon to say that. It's too soon to predict precisely what Iran will do next. And that is the big question here. Just a couple of hours ago, the Saudi foreign minister spoke following a foreign ministers ministerial meeting of the GCC. It was a virtual meeting because, of course, it's not possible for the likes of Bahrain, the UAE, for Qatar, for their ministers to jump on a plane and go somewhere else and get together. And there was a joint statement that the Saudi foreign minister Minister was speaking about afterwards. And it was, again, this language that we've heard condemning Iran's flagrant and unjustified attacks and stressing that the countries have a right to take all necessary measures to protect their stability and security. This is a very, very strong diplomatic language that's being used by these countries, and it's a message that they hope is being listened to in Tehran. But of course, that is the concern here at the moment. Who has the real power and leadership, particularly control over the military in Tehran? Are they acting together? And there's a sense right now in this region that the next 12 to 24 hours are going to be hugely important and hugely decisive over how the next week, and as you say, many weeks might play out. So it's a little too soon to sort of just look at the past couple of hours. Countries here really focusing on the next 12 and that real concern. If Iran ramps up its action in these Gulf countries, their messaging is that they're going to defend their security and stability.
Nick, one more question, if I may. I know it's just gone to AM in Riyadh there, but we had some messaging from Iran that this may have been errant missiles or not entirely directed on Gulf states. There's almost a kind of pulling back, not an apology, but a distancing itself from these attacks on the Gulf states. There is also this school of thought that if Iran does keep up pressure on the Gulf states with intent, that therefore puts pressure on the United States. What are people telling you there?
Let's hear this.
Look, I think the concern is quite simply the leadership has been removed in Iran, and it's not clear who is actually in charge. If it's one group of people, if it's a group of people that Iranian state media is putting out in pictures, do they really control everything in Iran, or are there smaller groups that are acting,
smaller bad actors,
and targeting in the Gulf region? That's the concern, and it's just not clear at the moment. So as long as there's that uncertainty about who actually leads in Iran, and if that leadership is willing to make the compromises that would be necessary to bring about stability and find a diplomatic off-ramp, all of that is a huge question mark. And for the Gulf countries, they don't really have a way of knowing that at the moment. Obviously, diplomacy is the track to make that happen. But at the moment, the diplomatic messages are going out, but we've yet to know if there's any real contact to understanding of what's really happening in Tehran.
Let's just be completely honest here. It doesn't matter. Their countries are being struck, and the missiles are coming from your country. You can't just call them errant missiles, right? Oh, I accidentally took out your shopping mall. Oh, I accidentally targeted a civilian area in your country. Bro, what are you saying here? So let's try to put this together here. When you remove the head of a snake, let's say there are still pieces, there's still the body. I think the body specifically is still alive here, guys. All right. Understand this here. There's some light tie with you and the United States of America. Okay. Well, there's nothing different. We're going after you. That's kind of the energy that I'm getting from this entire, I'm going to now strike all of the countries that are surrounding me.
But let's actually talk about the Middle East, because, gosh, what a weekend it's been. I mean, the US and Israel taking out the Ayatollah there. I want to ask you what you think this means politically for Donald Trump. I personally think if he pulls this off and this all goes to plan, everyone's hoping and praying for liberation, then this is an incredible foreign policy achievement. On the other hand, though, there is a part of the MAGA base who don't want to go to war, and it could possibly backfire. But how do you see it?
Well, for the MAGA base, it backfires if it goes on for too long. I mean, Trump was very clear that he didn't want to start forever wars and didn't want to get involved in forever wars, and that his philosophy on foreign policy, particularly when it comes to the Middle East, is that Western intervention largely has not worked. And it doesn't mean he's an isolationist, as some people have previously tried to suggest.
Right.
And of course, we saw that on his last strike on Iran. And we've seen it in the fact that he went in and negotiated a peace deal in the Middle East. I mean, again, who else would have been able to do something like that?
Yeah.
Help pull off the ceasefire between Israel and Hamas, right? It's only someone like Trump who can do that. So yes, if it goes on forever, then the MAGA base will get upset. But if, as he says, this is a 4-week operation, we go in, we get rid of the people we need to get rid of, and we liberate the people of Iran, I can't see any blowback whatsoever. Because, apart from Iran, there's not really anyone else who doesn't want or didn't want the Ayatollah gone and doesn't want a change of regime. I get that changing regime is a difficult proposition, and it does upset the equilibrium. And we've seen what happens a la Afghanistan, where you go in and you say, okay, well, you're gone, and then you just up sticks and leave, and, well, the Taliban comes back, right?
Yeah, of course.
You can't do your operations like that. But the people of Iran wanted the Ayatollah gone. The rest of the Middle East wanted the Ayatollah gone. The entirety of the West wanted the Ayatollah gone. So it's really hard to lose in this situation for Trump, unless he really messes it up, like does a Biden and pulls out of Afghanistan and gives the weapons and the tanks to
that's the thing. I mean, the Democrats, though, they have given billions of dollars over the years anyway to Iran. They've basically been supporting the regime. Kamala Harris, you've got all these representatives, they've come out, they're all upset about it. It's always the left, They love peace. They're the most tolerant of us all, that they'll keep telling you that. Yet when it comes to people on the right actually making strong and tough decisions, like what Donald Trump has done, suddenly it's, we didn't want this. We didn't want this.
Well, there was a headline in the New York Times, and this is like the coverage that you would only get for an Islamist, right? The headline in the New York Times, Ayatollah Khamenei dies aged 86 or whatever he was, leader who put Iran on the map, or words to those effect, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, do you reckon they would have written a headline, Hitler dies aged 56, who made Germany a European power?
Yes.
Of course.
No.
Of course they would never have.
I don't know about that, bro. I suspect the modern day left definitely would have done something like that.
Of course they would never have.
He did make it a European power. They went to war and lost.
Yeah, exactly.
But you wouldn't glorify Hitler in that way.
No.
So why would you glorify a murderous, dictatorial, Islamist pig?
Yep.
And say, he put Iran on the map. It's those sort of editorial decisions. It's just like, come on.
It's a shocker. No, it really has been a shocker. I'm very curious to see how this plays out. But I mean, I've been saying this all day on my show. Thank goodness for Donald Trump, because he's had the moral courage and moral clarity, and Benjamin Netanyahu as well, to actually do this. No world leader has.
We're going to come to a time in our history in America where we kind of look back specifically at this era in our history, and we look back and we say, you know what, hold on, guys, this was terrible for us. We have now immediately just gone or ran, let's say, into our own separate corners. We can't even honestly critically think about a single thing any longer, because if it doesn't align specifically with whatever group think mentality that's happening at the moment, then it has to be wrong here, right? I do notice that there are some Democrats that are coming out here and saying, hold on, guys, listen, we can hate Trump, sure, hate Trump in the background, but we can't allow that to be our only policy, because we're going to keep losing if we 100% keep going down that path of just saying, vote for me because Trump is bad. You're going to have to come to terms with what exactly is happening geopolitically, and then say, okay, hold on, maybe things just aren't that bad, I just don't like Trump. But you cannot sit stagnant and basically pause yourself because you're stuck under some legitimate Trump derangement syndrome, because you're stuck under it. Listen, for a while I was like, bro, what is TDS? It doesn't make any sense here, right? I get it. You may not like someone, but no. This has absolutely transformed into a legitimate psychological ailment. If you see this man's name, you immediately say, I hate everything about it, so I'm going to go ahead and talk about it, but with no coherency. And you just don't like him, so you see his name and you get enraged and have to take more antidepressants or something. I don't know how that works, guys. I don't know. I keep going back to my statement regarding the State of the Union because it matters here. Look at the state of our union. We are fragmented. We are even fragmented throughout the parties, guys. Understand this. The right has multiple doors, let's say, and rooms, right? And the left has multiple doors and rooms, but the room with all the septum piercings and the pink hair are running the party. Why are you letting those absolute insane people run the party, guys? Don't do that. You're going to lose indefinitely. I cannot imagine, truthfully, a Democrat, like a modern day Democrat ran country, the United States of America will be ran into the ground. Imagine no borders, no police, guys. Think about that for a second. No borders, no police. Just start there.